Paul starts off saying, practice what you preach, live what you teach, and then he starts giving some specific examples here. While telling others not to steal, he says to the Jews, how honest are you in your business dealings? You know, the Pharisees were very vocal against the Jewish publicans, who were known for overcharging. When you went to the publican to pay your taxes to Rome and you said, all right, you dirty good-for-nothing publican, what do I owe to Rome this year? And he would do his little calculating, and then he would say a figure. What did every Jew know was included in that figure? The publican's pocket padding. He always overcharged to get more to line his own pockets, and everybody knew it. And that's why publicans were so rich, and there wasn't anything that anybody could do about it. And so the Pharisees condemned the publicans for that, and yet the Pharisees turned around and made God's temple, which was supposed to be a house of prayer, into a den of what? Thieves. They were just as thieving as the publicans that they so vehemently attacked. Those Pharisees, they charged Disney World prices to buy a pre-approved lamb that has already been inspected by the priest, and you can be assured that this lamb will be accepted in the temple when you go to offer it. Now, it's going to cost twice as much, but hey, at least you know this lamb won't be rejected like one you brought from your own flock might get rejected. Every Jewish man had to pay an annual temple tax of half a shekel. So when you show up at the temple to pay your temple tax, shekels were not what were commonly used in everyday commerce. Roman coins, Greek coins, the coins that people came to Jerusalem from their culture bringing, that's what they had in their pockets. Well, no, to pay the temple tax, the Bible is very specific. It has to be half, not a half a denarius. It has to be half a shekel. It's got to be a kosher Jewish coin. So now here you are to pay your temple tax, and you've got your Greek coins. Well, now you're going to have to convert them to Jewish shekels in order to pay your debt. Take a guess whether that was going to have a fair exchange rate or not. What do you think? Oh no, not at all. Those were the money changers that were getting rich off of people. And so it's significant that the loudest voices against dishonest business dealings were the Pharisees, the very ones, these corrupt priests who were doing the same thing when they had the opportunity. You know, ancient Jews were known to use false weights and false measures for measuring grain for silver. And that's why 3 times the book of Proverbs addresses the abomination of using unjust weights. A modern parallel would be an unjust hour's work for a just hour's pay. Proverbs 20:14 focuses on dishonest trading. And the verse says, it is not, saith the buyer, but when he goeth his way, he boasteth. In other words, he's holding back something. He's not revealing everything about what's being purchased. And that would be the modern parallel. Then in verse 22, he continues giving examples of this. He says, thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, dost thou commit sacrilege? Another way that the Jews did not practice what they preached was in this area of adultery. You remember when the Pharisees brought the woman in John chapter 8, the woman taken in adultery, in the very act, they brought her to Jesus saying, hey Jesus, what do you think should be done here? And they're screaming for her blood. And you remember what Jesus' answer was? He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her, right? And many Bible students look at the context and the phrasing, and they say that what he's implying there is, which of you does not, he that among you that does not have the same kind of sin as her among you, cast the first stone, implying that they were just as guilty of this as the woman taken in adultery was. And you know, when Jesus went into explaining the nitty-gritty of what all constitutes adultery, how far did he say what all did he say you could do and still be considered an adulterer, even if you didn't go so far? What did he say constituted adultery at its core? Yeah, adulterous fantasies. He said, if you've ever lusted after a woman in your heart, A woman who's married, or you're married, he says you've committed adultery. And if you're not married and you lusted after a woman who wasn't married, you've committed fornication. But he says the sin of the heart, really the heart is always the issue. What comes on the outside is simply a reflection of what's on the inside. The outside's going to turn to dust and go back into the ground someday. Its deeds are not permanent. What's on the inside is what's going to live forever someday, and that's what has to be right. True righteousness is not just skin deep. It has to go all the way through and through. It has to come from the heart outward.